We're going to go to NBC's Carrie Sanders, who joins us live on the phone from Miami. Carrie, I know you've been talking to tsunami experts, so couple that with your own personal experience of having been in both Concepcion and Santiago, Chile.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the tsunami and how it is that they may get some sort of data before the tsunami makes landfall. Again, it's like a small wave. It might only be about 10, 15 centimeters moving across the ocean, but it's moving at about 500 miles an hour. So that's as fast as a jet. The one thing that the United States decided to do after Banda Aceh was to go forward. NOAA decided that they were going to push forward for their DART system. What that stands for is Deep Ocean Assessment Reporting of Tsunamis. So there's a buoy, 20 of them actually, floating out there at various locations, and they have a little transmitter on top that sends out data when there is a rapid or even a tiny but rapid increase in elevation, and that sends that data up to a satellite and is received down so they can determine how fast it's moving and how big this wave is that's coming, because they can actually stretch up along the hundreds of miles to see if it's an isolated wave or whether it's longer. That will give them an idea of what's arriving. So we all saw those pictures after Banda Aceh, and we remember the wave seemed much larger. This one might only be 15 centimeters. Here's how it works. As it's moving along and it gets closer to shore, as you know, the depth gets shallower and shallower and shallower, and the water begins to build up. It was often called a tidal wave because the tide or the water draws out from shore and then the big wave crashes in. It won't be moving 500 miles an hour when it comes ashore, but it will be a tremendous wave, and it can cause tremendous damage. Let's talk a little bit about now Santiago and Concepcion. I've been there. I've been out to the Juan Fernandez Islands. I've been to Easter Island, the whole region that we're talking about here. First of all, we see the pictures of the fire. Why fires? That's because very often after an earthquake, the natural gas lines break and there's a spark, and the next thing you know, you have these tremendous fires. It's extremely difficult in any circumstance to deal with a natural gas fire. But when you couple the fact that communications are disrupted, roads are difficult to get around, and getting fire departments to move, that's likely why we see this building, which will burn to the ground here, or may have already burned to the ground, because it just takes so long to move people in a chaotic situation like this. The city itself, Santiago, Concepcion, this is a very modern country, so they understand not only the history of dealing with earthquakes, but they know how to build for earthquakes. I spent a good portion of my childhood growing up just north in Peru, also an area where I had lots of earthquakes and tremors, to the point that sometimes you didn't even really pay attention. You'd look at your friends and go, was that a tremor? So this region is familiar with dealing with earthquakes, but nothing on this magnitude. It's been some time, as you've noted, since there's one been this high on the scale, the Richter scale. I did speak to an expert because I've just returned from Haiti, and I was curious, after spending so much time in Haiti, is this a reaction to that? Did one plate on the tectonic plate move that set this up? According to one expert I spoke to, that is highly unlikely. It may have been the case, but highly unlikely. So what set this off, as you know, is the pressure between the tectonic plates that just give and they slide. And we heard one expert say this morning that the coastline may have shifted as much as 10 feet.
Right. All right, Carrie Sanders, thank you very much for that perspective and the details on the tsunami and how that will develop.